Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about how we feed our little preemie baby. Now, just because she's a preemie doesn't mean she has to eat this way. She could eat like any other regular baby, but I'll kind of say what we do, what works for us, and how she gets all the nutrients that she needs since she was 6 weeks early. So if you're interested, just keep watching. If not, go ahead and click on out and I'll see you later in a different video. Alright, so for our baby, she was born at 32 weeks plus 2 days, so she was about 6 weeks early because of HELLP syndrome, and I have a whole video on that and things like that. So, now, since she was born with HELLP syndrome, she had a very low birth weight, so she went straight to the NICU. So I didn't see her for about 24-ish hours, so the first thing they asked me was, in the morning when she feeds, because they give them a while to adjust, do you want her to have donor milk or formula if your breast milk doesn't come in? So I said, you know what, let's just start with some donor breast milk, no problem. And I was pumping anyways, because I've been leaking colostrum, so I'm like, you know what, let's just go ahead and start pumping. This was about 24 hours after my C-section recovery, so I mean, granted, I am really, really tired, but I'm like, you know what, let's just go ahead and stimulate some milk production since I was leaking colostrum, which is that first super milk, and let's just see what we get. So they had me pumping about every 3-ish to 4 hours, and they gave me all the supplies. So yeah, and there was a hospital grade pump that they brought in since I decided I wanted to try to breastfeed. So I've been pumping. Then within about a few days, they asked me, since I was pumping some milk and my milk had come in, they're like, do you want to nurse? I was like, well, I want to try, but she's so small, I don't know how well it's going to go. And just for reference, sorry for TMI, I'm rather big chested. I'm petite, but I have a pretty decent chest. And she was pretty small. She was 3 pounds 7 ounces by the time she kind of lost a little bit of weight, because babies always lose weight. She was 3 pounds 2 ounces. But anyways, so they got me like one of those nipple shields because it helps with babies that are smaller. That and I do not have regular body parts. Well, I mean, I do have regular body parts, but they gave me a nipple shield because I needed one, because it can help them latch, especially if they're little and stuff like that. And her mouth was teeny tiny. So I tried nursing a few times. It went okay, not the best. And they were also trying a couple different sizes of nipple shields. And eventually, after about 2 weeks of her being in the NICU, I was trying to nurse one day and it wasn't working because the nipple shield was bigger and milk was going everywhere. So, and her mouth was just so small that I went to my postpartum appointment. And one of the issues with HELLP syndrome and preeclampsia like I had is high blood pressure. So I told him, I was like, she just tried to nurse, it didn't go very well, so I'm feeling kind of stressed out. And so they're like, yeah, your blood pressure is a little elevated, but you're stable. And they're like, you know what, if it's bothering you that much, the important thing is the milk. And you're already pumping, and it doesn't matter if she gets it physically from you or silicone nipple, which means a bottle. So it's like, okay. And it was so ridiculous. Like, she was about 2 weeks old. This time I was like, I know this is ridiculous. And she's getting close to 4 pounds, so she's not 3 pounds 2 ounces anymore. But I was like, this is too stressful. I'm already pumping a ton, and it's hard to sync it up with her schedule. So basically, that's when I basically decided that day that I do not want to breastfeed anymore. It was just stressful for me, like, because with preemies, when they're in the NICU, they only give them a half-hour block to eat as much as they can, because with them, it's like exercise, and if they burn too many calories, they'll lose weight. So I was like, you know what, I'm already pumping, let's just do bottles. So from that point on, every time I'd go back in, they're like, do you want to nurse? Do you want to nurse? Just because they ask, not to be pushy, but they're like, okay, do you want to nurse or bottle feed? And I'm like, you know what, let's just bottle feed. I'll continue pumping. That last time was really stressed out for me. And I'm like, the NICU's already kind of an emotional place to begin with. They're like, that's fine, that makes sense. And what was so nice to hear from all of the different people was, we'll support whatever you want to do. And that's really how they said it to me. They're like, we understand the NICU is a stressful place. It can take an emotional toll on you. That's perfectly fine if you just want to pump and bottle feed, which honestly made me feel so much relief, so much better, so much less stressed. Because there's just this community that if you can't produce and you don't breastfeed, you're basically like poisoning your baby. And now, she does have to supplement with formula anyway, which I'll get to in a minute. But it was such a relief to hear that if you don't want to nurse, we're not going to force you to nurse. So that was really, really nice and helpful, because the other reason I love the bottle feeding is I can see exactly how much she's getting, so I know if she's getting her full feed that she needs to take to grow and get stronger. So now, that's kind of the backstory on why I chose not to breastfeed after about 2 weeks. let me get into how we feed our preemie. So now, ever since I started bottle feeding, we always pump breast milk, and I have so much breast milk. It's insane. I have a very good supply. I'm very thankful because breast milk is so good for a baby. So I pump breast milk, but then since she is a preemie and her brain, obviously wasn't fully developed, and she doesn't get all the vitamins and nutrients that she would if she were still in the womb, we supplement with the Similac NeoSure powder, which is a very specific formula for premature babies. Now, the reason why we have to supplement with formula is because breast milk is made for a term infant. So if your breast milk doesn't have enough calories, the baby won't gain weight like they're supposed to. So that's why in the NICU in the hospital, they put in the Similac human milk fortifier, which just adds calories to your breast milk. And now that she's home, she doesn't use that. She just uses the NeoSure powder. So we mix so much in for so many ounces of breast milk. So I purely pump. I don't really nurse anymore. She's a bottle-fed baby. She's happy. She's growing. She is gaining weight. It makes me feel so much better, and it helps my husband to if I need to go to bed, like I go to bed between 8 and 9 o'clock, and then he takes that night shift until about 11 or midnight. So it's so nice to get those few hours of sleep, because then by 1 or 2 she's ready to eat again, and I've had a good chunk of sleep, 4-5 hours-ish, but you know what? That's a good chunk of solid sleep, so I'm ready to go for those middle of the night feeds. So I just want to say, part of this video, if you're a mom of a preemie or just in general and you decide to pump, that is okay. Now, if you don't produce anything, heck, feed your baby formula. Because I've always been on the bandwagon of fed is best. It doesn't really matter if it's breast milk, if it's formula. The baby will eat and the baby will grow and the baby will be happy. Formula is not going to poison your baby. However, certain formulas might sit well or better with your baby than others. Just kind of depends on how sensitive your baby is, I guess. But yeah, so I am exclusively pumping. We always mix in formula with her breast milk to give her those added calories. She's gaining weight beautifully. Her birth weight was 3.7, so 3 pounds 7 ounces. Last time we weighed her, she was 5 pounds 2 ounces. She's about 5 weeks old, so she's doing so beautifully. And yeah, I could not be happier with what we decided to do. Pumping, I don't pump every 2 hours, so I'm not that exhausted from it. I pump about 3 to 4 hours during the day and 4 to 5 hours at night. So, I mean, I will say if you're pumping, as long as you pump on a somewhat regular schedule and keep up your water, you'll be good to go. You really shouldn't dry up that much, at least not for a good month, because she's about a month old and I have so much milk saved up. I'm still producing on the daily, and it is incredible. So yeah, that's kind of the story of how we feed our preemie and what we decided to do and why I decided to stop breastfeeding. And side note, so I said when she was about 2 weeks old, I decided to stop breastfeeding and purely just pump. And it probably has nothing to do with this, but literally a week later, she was coming home. So I was so honestly, I'm so happy that I don't nurse, because it's just kind of a stressful thing. And with a baby in the NICU, I just didn't want that added stress. But yeah, so that's kind of the story behind that and kind of how we decided to do everything. And yeah, so if you like this video, give it a huge thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe below if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!